In this session, we want to talk about the remote access role in Server 2012 R2. Remote access facilitates remote communication between a client machine and the internal corporate network. For example, you might be at home, but you need to connect to one of the machines at work. You might be overseas and you need to connect to your internal corporate network. The remote access facilitates this communication by using a number of communication methods. We have the traditional dial-up method where we use a modem and the telephone line to make a direct connection with the internal network. And then we have the VPN, which is also a traditional method, which allowed you to access your internal network once you had an internet connection. We also have the direct access method now, which does a lot more than the VPN. Yes, VPN was an encrypted method, meaning it was secure. As you communicated from your computer at home or outside of the network to the internal network, your communication was encrypted through a VPN tunnel. Direct access went a bit further. Direct access allows the administrator to manage the client computer even though the client computer is not connected directly to the internal network at your workplace. So the same way the administrator will be able to manage your computer at work because you're on the network, the administrator can now, using direct access, manage the client computer wherever that client computer is located. We also have some services, network address translation and LAN routing, that facilitates this remote access. The first thing that we need to do in order to have remote access up and running is to install the remote access role. After the role is installed, then we need to configure remote access. So we're going to go through the steps of installing remote access. To install the remote access role, we're on our Server Manager dashboard page, and we want to click on Manage, Add Roles and Features, and we want to click Next on the Before You Begin screen, next on the Installation Type screen, next on the Destination Server screen, and we want to select from the roles Remote Access. Let us add the features that go along with remote access. And we want to pause here a moment to look at the description of remote access. Remote access provides seamless connectivity, always on and always managed experience based on direct access. We had talked about direct access, where the administrator is now able to manage that client machine even though the client machine is connecting remotely. That did not take place with VPN. With VPN, when the client computer connected to the internal network, the administrator was not able to manage that client computer. But now, the administrator can manage the client computer using direct access. Remote access allows you to use the traditional VPN services, also the dial-in services. It provides routing, the traditional routing capabilities, including network address translation, which we will talk about, and other connectivity options. Let's click next to continue. And on the feature page, we actually want to click on next again. And now we are on the remote access page. Let us pause for a moment and look at the description here on this page. Remote access combines direct access and routing and remote VPN into one single management console. So we talked about direct access. So we're going to be able to configure direct access and also VPN and LAN routing within this remote access console. Direct access will only work with computers that are joined to the domain. The user will be able to communicate with the network. Not only that, remember that the administrator will also be able to manage that person's computer. And that is a step up from the VPN connection. How do you know whether you should deploy direct access or VPN? Well, you're told to deploy VPN to clients who are not supported by direct access, or clients who are not joined to the domain. That means that clients who are working in a work group. So you either do the direct access or the VPN, depending on whether your setup allows you to use direct access. You want to click on next to continue. And here you have the option of selecting routing, or depending on your task, you can only select direct access and VPN depending on what you want to do. Explanation for direct access over on the right hand side allows the user to be connected to the corporate network, same as the VPN, as long as they have internet access. But with direct access, your mobile computers can be managed anytime the computer has internet connectivity, so that your administrator can make sure that you have all the correct updates. If he needs to put a policy on your system, he can do that remotely. But with VPN, he's not able to do that. But VPN also gives you a secure connection to the internal network with the encryption protocols. Let's click next to continue. And here you get to look at what you have installed. Just look at it, make sure that you have what you want. And we had installed direct access and VPN and the features that come along with that. And then we click on install. Once the installation is completed, you now have to configure your remote access. You can do it here by clicking on open the getting started wizard, or you can click close and go into tools and routing and remote access and continue to configure remote access. We're going to click on close, and then we're going to go to tools, and we're going to select routing and remote access. So you can do it this way, or you could have clicked on the link that we saw just now to configure the remote access. So we're going to click on remote access. And we're waiting for the remote access console to appear. And you will see here that you have the server name, but it has a red exclamation mark next to it. It means that it needs to be configured. So what you want to do is to right click on the server, and you see here it says configure and enable routing and remote access. So you click on configure and enable routing and remote access. And the wizard will take you through the configuration. It will help you set up your server. So you click next, and you have a choice here. You can enable any of the following combinations of services, or you can customize the server. So if we choose dial-up and VPN, it means that we are configuring this remote access server so that dial-up and VPN clients are able to connect to the internal corporate network. Network translation is a service that allows your private address to be converted to a public address so that you can communicate over the network. You also have the choice of VPN, access, and NAT together. And this will allow remote clients to connect to the server through the internet, and the local clients to connect to the internet using a single public IP address. We have some other options here. For our session, we're going to go to custom configuration. We're going to click next. That means that we're going to select the combination that we want. So here, as you see, we have check boxes. It means that we could select all of these, or we could select the ones that we want. We're going to choose VPN for this particular session. So we would be configuring remote access to act as a VPN server, meaning that clients that are configured for VPN will be able to access the internal corporate network through the VPN connection. We're going to click on next. At this message, routing and remote access, we're going to click OK. And we will need to start the service. When you choose any of the options, this is how the service is started. The routing and remote access service is now ready to be used, and you have to click on Start Service. And you can see the service starting here. And it's completed, you click on Finish. And here you see the red has changed to green, and you see a number of options available here for you. Network interfaces, ports, remote access client, remote access login, IP4. And on these tabs, you can configure your settings. Let's just click on network interfaces. You can see the network interfaces that are here. We click on ports. You can see all the available ports that the user will be using to access the internal network. Remote access clients. This view will show you all the clients that will be accessing the internal network. You will see the username. You will see the duration. You will see the number of ports they're coming in on. You will see their status. Remote access login and policies, you can also configure that. So once we enable routing and remote access, once we have installed it and we have configured it, we will have these options so that we could go and configure all the services we need on remote access. This covers the installation of remote access, and it shows us the services that we can configure using remote access. Remember that we can configure the remote access service as a dial-up. We could configure it as VPN, direct access. It is our choice depending on what we want within our organization. This is the end of the session. Next, we move on to actually configuring some other options on the remote access server. I want to thank you for listening.